Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 12th ever Mentoring Talk. The Mentoring Talks initiative is one of the central pillars of our transformative education drive that we started at the American University of Beirut in 2011, right here in this hall, with the first organic chemistry competition. Yesterday, we hosted Professor Omar Farha for the 2019 Makhlouf Haddadin lecture. And today we are honored to have Professor Farha to deliver a mentoring talk. The Mentoring Talks initiative was actually born from the Makhlouf Haddadin lectureship back in 2016. For audience members who have yet to attend an edition in our series of mentoring talks, there is more to it that our minimalist title may first impart. While it is true that our esteemed guests are invited in order to recount their path to success, the focus is not actually on the destination. Rather, it is the struggles to reach such achievement, the unmet desires on the road to victory, and their refusal to stay down that are at the focal point of this continuing initiative. Much as wrought iron does not break under the swift blows of the hammer and anvil, but is tempered into resilience, so too are mentors like Professor Farha made stronger by their life struggles and not weaker. Professor Farha is a professor of chemistry at Northwestern University. In his early 40s, Professor Farha has established a very prominent career with more than 400 peer-reviewed publications, 15 patents, more than 44,000 citations. Yesterday I said close to 44. It increased by 100 since yesterday. And an H-index of 101. Yesterday I said it is 100. It increased since yesterday. This is according to today's Google Scholar. It will increase tomorrow, I'm sure. He has been named a highly cited researcher in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. Professor Farha's talk is entitled Willpower Knows No Obstacles. Don't let where you begin limit where you go. In his own words, continually pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone with drive, dedication, and integration will expose you to opportunities you never imagined possible from humble beginnings. Professor Farha was born in Rammoun, Ramallah of Palestine. His childhood was very tough and challenging on many levels. In his talk, Professor Farha will be sharing with the audience his life journey, highlighting his failures, challenges, obstacles, and the hurdles that he faced throughout his rich career. Please join me in welcoming Professor Farha to the floor.
Can you guys hear me? Bilal, thank you once again for a very, very, very generous introduction. I don't deserve this introduction, but thank you. And thank you all for being here this afternoon or this evening. And thank you for the people who were here yesterday. Hopefully I didn't bore you yesterday for you to come back. Today's talk is absolutely nothing like yesterday's in many ways. I actually put this talk together, which is interesting when you start stitching pictures where you start and where you are right now for the first time. I actually put this talk for only this audience. And it wouldn't be the last one I will be giving because I actually learned a lot myself putting this talk together. I have to start with this. I am really jealous of AUB, to be frank with you. These mentoring talks, when I start watching on Twitter and YouTube, I went to my colleagues and I said, why we don't even do that for our students at Northwestern University? And we found out it's not really easy to put such, bring the speakers, put those events together, find the funding for them. So with that, Bilal, thank you very much for allowing me to actually be able to stand here and tell you about my life story. Thank you. But also, I looked at the people that Bilal put together, the other 11, and I thought, who am I to stand here to tell you about my simple life story? Because you had to see, you got to look at artists who actually struggled to get to where they are in different ways. You looked at a very, very professional, somebody who's very successful, what he or had to go through to get to where he is. You have incredible academics that sometimes I wish those are the people I look for as mentors, to look at them and standing here. Somebody who actually just reached 216 in an H index and rising, an incredible scientist, and my colleague, Fraser Stoddard, who I saw, he's a Nobel laureate, but he's also an incredible dancer, so don't expect that from me at least. And you had the French minister. And so where do I stand? So this to me an honor and an opportunity, as I said, to be here and tell you. But let me start with, even though Bilal told you my village, but let me start with that again. So I am from a city, not really from this city, but we are from the city of Ramallah. And I truly believe, and I'm not just putting that there, I'm a Palestinian. I born and raised in Palestine, so this is my place. And it's truly the best place on earth. And I am from a small village, the east of Ramallah. It's called Rammoun. And I want to make sure, as for Bilal and others, it has the shadda. It's Rammoun, not Rammoun. So that's good. So now that's this little village. That's a picture of the village as a couple years ago. It's a beautiful village, sits on the top of a mountain. There is a lot of new build there, but it's not always been like this. This village went through hard times. It's only 3,000 villagers that live there, including my mom, my sisters, and some of my brothers, unto this day, my nephews, my nieces. So we actually count. My mom has 38 grandkids. I'm sorry, I have 38 nephews and nieces. My mom has 40 grandkids. We are, so you could see we're contributing quite a bit to this 3,000. This place is a great place to grow, and I always say that because everybody knows everyone. But that's also a problem. As a child, I wasn't able to go down the street and get myself in trouble before I go back to the house. Already my mom and my dad knows exactly what I did just half an hour ago because our neighbor called them that Omar was doing X, Y, and Z. So as beautiful as a place living in that tiny village, but also had its challenges. When I say we started in a humble beginning, because my family, we are, I would say, we weren't the wealthy family. We were many kids. My dad worked really hard. And I always point out we didn't have, the Nikes or the Adidas shoes to wear. So that's me, 10 years old. This kid, I'm sure it was innocent enough that he thought, you got to go and solve big problems and help humanities. And you'll see, that changed it a little bit. Then in high school, this is the guy with a lot of hair, which I lost most of. But looking back, this is the guy who actually, when I finished high school, that was my first struggle, and we'll go through that. Because growing up, as I said, I am one of 9 kids. I am number 8. So by the time they got to me, my mom and dad were tired. I was raised by my oldest sister, technically. So she's like almost my second mom. So when I go back home, I kiss her hand the way I do that for my mom because she actually raised me. My parents, my siblings work really hard. My dad is a farmer. My mom is a housewife. Absolutely no education. Literally no education whatsoever. I think my dad went to the 6th grade and my mom stopped at the 1st grade. So that tells you how much education they have. However, they insisted that I should do that because that's something they didn't have for themselves. They wanted their kid to be better than them, as we all are. I went, we worked hard all the way to high school. I actually finished with really high grades. I got almost A's in a lot of things, B pluses, A minuses, but I did quite well for the times when I did that. This happens a lot of my growing up during the first Intifada. So that's, these times where, I don't have to explain any of that to this particular audience, so I will leave it at that. I finished high school with that kid thinking it's got to go and solve these problems in the world, working hard, getting all these grades, to go and start applying for universities. I was rejected from every single university I applied to. Every single university. I applied to universities not in the surrounding countries. I even applied as a music major because I thought if I apply as a chemist, nobody, as an engineer, it's not going to happen. Let me apply as a music major. Maybe I'll play the drum and then change majors and we'll see where we go from there. And I still was rejected. So where do you go from there? Then you start, that's the self-doubt start to kick in. You say, I want to go solve these problems, that innocent 10-year-old, and now I can't even go to college and seeing my friends and other family members that they had the same struggles. And I thought, it gotta be different for me. Maybe they didn't work hard or whatever. You always make excuses. It's got to be different, but that wasn't the case. I would call it this is the first major failure, at least in my mind, but I want to stop using the word failure because it's not. I think it's the first opportunity to grow, at least I didn't see it that way then. I was an angry child. If you think about it, applying and you're getting rejected, what's going to make you angry? It's not going to say, oh, it's okay, tomorrow will be better. That's not how you think. Now I think about it, that's how I should have thought. But going through it, it's difficult. But now I would say it's one of the opportunities that made me grow and be the man who I am right now, good or bad. And really I do believe, and you get to see a lot of quotes on my talk, this is one of them I do believe in, is really the moment when you start wondering if you deserve better. And for all of us here, the answer always yes. Because why not us? We are not any less than anybody else around the world, regardless. So to me, why not us? Then at that point, we had no choice but to go to the United States because we tried all the options around. That did not work out. And that might be one of the best things happened to me. Now I look at it, as angry as I was about the situation, I don't think I will be where I am right now without making that hard journey. You go to the U.S., it's a new start. I am so happy to see in Lebanon here, everybody I talk to, their English is better than mine. That wasn't the case when I graduated from the West Bank. English is not what the language is. It's one of the curriculum, but it's like you barely pass. It's like sixth grader kind of English. So you go to the United States, the first thing you need to do besides learning the culture and being able to fit in, this way you're not an outsider, because then you need to learn the culture, you need to learn the language. One thing you can do, you cannot afford to fail, because your mom and dad, they were okay with shipping you away. You cannot let them down by failing. So that's something you think about it. But at the same time, this is the place that gave me all the opportunities that others took for granted. But somebody like us, when we go there, you don't take these opportunities for granted. You work hard and you don't take them for granted. So I went to a small, I didn't go to Harvard, I didn't go to MIT, I didn't go to Northwestern University, I didn't even go to UCLA where I got my PhD. I started in a small community college, and nothing wrong with that. That doesn't matter where you start. So don't look at it, oh, if I don't start at Northwestern University or Harvard, my career is over. I completely disagree with that. I am trying to teach my son that right now. You could start anywhere, and you could go from there and build on it. I went there. Why did I go there? Because I needed to learn a language. I couldn't, if I went to Harvard, I wouldn't make it, to be frank with you. I might not be able to make it. It's affordable. I remember it was $15 a unit when I started there. I take full times is 18 units, 20 units at $15. That's pocket change. I actually worked at Denny's. I used to wait tables. I was a waiter. I served food to pay for my schooling. It's not like my dad. My dad is a farmer at the end of the day. So I helped I worked in restaurants. But why? $15 a unit times 20, you do the math. So that means it's cheap. You could do it. But at the same time, it's great education. The second year I was there, and because of my organic teacher, even though I am not an organic chemist, because of my organic teacher, I was nominated and voted by the whole entire college to be Omar Farha, the Man of the Year of Fullerton College. My God, I mean, I just was rejected from every single university where I came from. A year later, in a country that I have nothing to do with, now they tell me I am good enough. And that's when you start thinking, okay, that means, yeah, I am good enough, and why not? And why not me? You go there. I did 2 years, and I transferred after that the stepwise. I went to UCLA, and I got my bachelor degree, but I stayed there for my PhD because that university did so much for me. I was on a chancellor fellowship. It hardly costed me anything because I did well. I was rewarded. And I said, why do I want to go somewhere else? I want to stay here for my PhD, and I did. And for my PhD, you got to see only a couple slides about science. I'm not going to talk much about science. I worked on materials. They are called carboranes and boranes. For the chemists in the audience, these are the three-dimensional benzenes. These are the three-dimensional aromatic materials. So from young age, I liked three-dimensional things. So when you saw yesterday, all my structures are three-dimensionals. And this is one of the molecules we made. So this, a three-dimensional molecule, but the center of it is conjugated the way a phenyl is conjugated. So that's what I did for my PhD, and we'll leave it at that. I graduated from UCLA. I graduated with actually the dissertation of the year, and at UCLA, that's about 60 graduates to about 70 graduates per year for their PhD. I got the dissertation of the year. Once again, another university thought I am worth it. There is struggles. But at this point, before I go there, this is a picture of a few months ago, about 3 months ago. That's my PhD advisor in his 90th birthday. So we were celebrating his 90th birthday. Why? Why did I go to his 90th birthday? He was a hard guy, but he was a great guy as a scientist who made me the scientist I am today. So he deserved my respect for me to fly to a different state and celebrate with him his 90th birthday. But I was a little cocky at that point. And I used this in exactly what it means. I thought I knew what I wanted to do, and I thought I knew everything. You know, I got a PhD from UCLA. That means I know everything. What I wanted to do, and I thought I knew it, I wanted to become a product manager. I wanted to go to managerial for a pharmaceutical company, for a chemical company, and manage product distribution and product development, which means I needed to go to get my MBA. because that's the way they will hire you for those jobs. So I worked really hard during the last year of my PhD to get accepted at one of the top 10 schools to get your MBA. It's Anderson School of Management, also at UCLA. But I attended there for only 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. Even though for all my PhD I thought I knew exactly what I wanted, the job I wanted, until I went there and I started attending the classes, and I thought I actually was wrong. This is not what I want to do for the rest of my life, manage product from point A to point B. I'm glad people doing it, but that wasn't for me. So for me, I am a chemist, I am a researcher, and that didn't seem right. So, but again, as a Middle Eastern, and we have to say that, we also think, what do you think now everybody's going to say about me? How about my cousins? My aunt? Your mom and dad? What do they get to say? He's quitting. But at that time, I really did not care, to be frank with you. I wanted to do what's right for me, not what's right for my aunt, what's right for my uncle, or what's right for my cousin. I wanted to do what's right for me. So what I did, I quit school even though I worked really hard to do it. And that to me was my second opportunity. You could call it a failure after working hard, quitting, or you could look at it that I actually now learned that's not what I want to do. That's a good thing. That's process of elimination in a way. And again, I really do believe in this because it's really the decisions that you decide to do. It's not your conditions. My conditions put me, I was born in a city in Ramallah in the West Bank. But that should not be a negative thing. The decisions I made to leave the country for better education, maybe what got me here. The decisions that I made, I want to quit business school and pursue my passion of being a researcher in chemistry, maybe what got me here. So I went to Northwestern University to do my postdoc, and I worked there on three-dimensional material again, but now this is, I talked about this yesterday, three-dimensional metal organic frameworks, and we'll leave it at that. And at this point, I knew you cannot mess around with what you decide to do and where you do your postdoc, because you don't have a lot of time. I already wasted time on deciding to go to business school and not. So I actually decided to go to a lab and tackle problems that others in the community might thought, maybe we shouldn't tackle those problems. We don't want to go talk that these materials we work on has issues, has challenges, but I decided to go and work in a lab to tackle those challenges. But what I always say, when you say, Omar, this is not what you should do, or this is incorrect, please give me an alternative, but don't say, I don't like this. Give me an alternative, what we should do. Don't criticize, come up with a solution. Criticizing is easy, coming up with a solution is harder. So I did not want to go just criticize, I wanted to come up with solution. And we came up with solution for each one of those problems. Happy to talk about it during Q&A, but I don't want to talk about science today, so I will leave it at that. But I want to say that in the first couple years as a postdoc, we made a material that if you make a gram of this material and you unfold it, that gram, which you could think of a gram as the package of a sugar, that's it. You could cover a soccer field with the whole with 1 gram. That's how much surface area it has, and that allows us to do a lot of things from chemical storage, chemical separation, catalysis, and anything else. But what did the field think of us? Because we went and we tackled those problems that people did not want to talk about, but we came up with a solution. What the field told us, that this particular paper we wrote in 2010, it's got cited 1,000 times. That means the field really loved it. So that could have went the other way. But I got lucky that the field really loved it, and it took off from there. So then I stayed at Northwestern. I got hired as a faculty member. You guys know this guy, Sir Fraser. That's my colleague. Chad Merking. He's also another giant in the department. He's another giant in the chemistry world. And hopefully one day he'll be here to tell you about his story himself. But he's another giant. So I decided to stay at Northwestern University. But there I wanted to tackle what should I do as a chemist, and how do you think about the problem, and what's your philosophy? You could think about that as if we talk about Neil Bohr, he's a very basic guy. Let's make things for the sake of science, and who cares about society? We just want to make things. Or you could go to the Edison and let's make it randomly, and maybe one day we'll get lucky. Nothing wrong with that. Or you could do it, how can we do basic research and understand what we do in order to do some fundamental that changes the world, the way you discover medicines and other things. And nobody wants to be here, obviously. I'm sure nobody in this audience wants to be there. Our group really sits right there. We like to do fundamental aspects to change how we store energy, how we save lives, and other things. So this is for Sarah, since she missed my talk yesterday, to tell her about what my group does. So my group in general, we store and separate chemicals. We do catalysis. I talked about this topic extensively yesterday, how to encapsulate enzymes and other parts of the periodic table that they are sitting way there in the bottom that nobody wants to touch. We work with that. So that's all I'm going to tell you what my group does. So remember I told you I wanted to go to a business school. That's a disease, because once you want to do business, you don't let go. About 5 years ago, I decided I want to start a company. And I want to start a company based on the chemistry I do and based on the patents that we patented at Northwestern University. So at that point, either lucky or not, these reports, they're called the Lux Research Reports. Those are done by huge companies that they go do research on specific topics, and they come up with the ideas, can these materials be commercialized? Let me tell you what they talked about, the material that I did, what I'm working on right now, and what I did my career on. These materials, so maybe most likely they are just hype, they're not going to work. They might be analogous to silicon carbide. Even if you don't know silicon carbides, it took 80 years for silicon carbides to be commercialized. MOF's been around for 20. That means we have another 60 years. That's what they compared them to. They actually predicted a time when MOFs, which is the material we make, it will be commercialized. And they put this number on it, 2035. I don't know how they came up with it. 2035. That means we shouldn't have MOFs commercialized for another 16 years. At this point, you say, okay, I should really give up and quit. Not just quit commercializing. Am I even in the right field, what I'm doing here? Because look at those experts in doing research on fields, what they are telling us. This is just another way of putting the data, how long it takes to commercialize things. And that's another thing I do believe in, because a lot of people say this is what you should do, doesn't make you wrong. Don't follow the crowd, because the crowd can be wrong. You might be the right one. And in this case, I decided, you know what? I want to be a stubborn Middle Eastern. And I want to do it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So we went. I had an awesome business partner. We formed what we called Nomad Technologies. What we decided to make materials using our platform, market-driven. That means the market really wanted. We wanted to go after materials people would pay huge amount of money for, but you don't need to make a lot of it. And we don't need to worry about any material that requires engineering hurdles. And I apologize for all the engineers in the audience. So then what did NUMAT do? I mentioned this yesterday. NUMAT went and we put our sponges in these cylinders, and we store very toxic compounds that the electronic industry uses to dope. If you have a cell phone, it got your cell phone, those wafers were touched and doped by those toxic chemicals. So we stored it for them at low pressure. That means it's safer, and we could store more of it at the same time. So we did that. We commercialized already multiple products. Remember, the report said we cannot commercialize anything until 2035. Our partner that distributes these cylinders worldwide is a $4 billion company. So those our partner, because we are a small company, we needed that distribution. So they believed in us, and they believed in this company and this product. You could see that's our product in their facilities, and they already opened a filling facility to take care of Asia. It's in South Korea. So that's great. So they built a filling facility just for our fleet of cylinders to do that and send to the electronic industry. That means if I listened to that report, I should have just quit. And maybe we got lucky. I don't know. So I would say that's the prediction. We should have been right, not even close there. Our company's right here. We shouldn't have commercialized anything, but we still did. This company was chosen to be the 10-watch company in the United States just a year ago. This is the companies to watch for. But at the end of the day, that's what once again, I believe in this. Because if you're not a part of the majority, it does not make you wrong. And I really do believe in that. So let me finish with 2 slides with few remarks that I believe in. I learned those from Mom. I learned those from Dad. This is my mom and my dad coming to my graduation. My dad is not here with us anymore, but he's in a better place. But I learned a lot from him. One of the things he taught me is don't take things for granted. Appreciate what you get. But more importantly, don't be a mediocre to please others. That means I am not going to not do my best. This way my colleagues doesn't get mad at me. If I want my colleagues to be proud of me if I am doing well, I will be proud of my colleagues when he or she is doing well. If you don't have that mentality, that's a problem. That's what my dad told me. Don't be a mediocre to please others. If you need to be better than your brothers and your cousins, be it. They should be happy for you. At the same time, be humble and gracious. We should always be grounded. That's who we are. It's good to be ambitious, but it's not good to be not humble or ungracious. Always, there is no reason to fear anybody, regardless, good or bad, strong or weak. But at the same time, I believe in respect all. Everybody deserves respect, regardless where they come from. But more importantly, you are never too important to be nice to others. In particular, the ones, because everybody needs help. So that's why don't forget the people who helped you to get to where you are. That means I didn't get to where I am without help. I got help from so many people that I can't even count. I can't forget not pay this back to the people who helped me. Not when you reach a certain point you forget. That's I think what would make you even unhuman, to forget about where the people who got you to where you are. Or don't worry about what others think of you. I'm a believer in that. I told you I didn't really care what my cousin said, what my aunt, and you shouldn't either. Embrace failures, because in my view those are opportunities. Challenge yourself. If you don't challenge yourself and you go with the status quo, that typically you have more potential. Why do you waste it? And at the same time, value your family and friends, because those are the ones who will stay behind you in good days and bad days. And that's the friends you know who your friends is not when things are going well. When things are going backwards and going downwards, and the ones they stick behind you, those are the true friends. It's not the ones who wants to come around when things are rosy. And at the same time, have fun. Don't live someone else's life. I'm not going to live my dad's life. My dad wanted me to become a medical doctor. I did not want to be a medical doctor. So I'm not going to, even though I love my dad and I respect my dad, but I don't need to live my dad's dream. And at the same time, don't be a sheep. Think for yourself. If you don't do that, you're not going to make it. I'm sorry. Once again, you heard this earlier. You really have to go beyond your comfort zone. Being comfortable with what you do is not enough. This kid never thought he will be here. I will never thought I will be at AUB telling you about my story. So thank you. And I would like to thank my group for allowing me to be here. This is my former group members as well. AUB for hosting me. Bilal and his team, thank you guys. I really do appreciate it. And my family, my wife and my 2 children for being patient with me and allow me to go around the world and do what I want. Without a strong wife behind me, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So I am indebted to her big time. And with that, thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Professor Farha, for such beautiful and inspiring lecture. We're going to take questions.
Thank you for the talk. It was really inspirational. When you decided you want to work on the MOFs, how did you decide about that? And how did you know that this research will actually turn out to be something great?
I didn't know it's going to be something great. I really wanted to work on something I enjoyed. As I told you, for my PhD, I worked on 3-dimensional materials. So I wanted to work on 3-dimensional materials that do something different. And I went after 3-dimensional porous materials. I didn't go into that field knowing that field one day can be commercialized, or somebody's going to win the Nobel Prize, or it's going to be huge. I went to it with just as a naive scientist.
Now, looking back at this past, would you recommend that we actually plan before we go to any field, or actually just
you should do what you like. You should do what you love. And sometimes, if what you love is organic chemistry, and 10 people is going to tell you pharma has no future, you should do organic chemistry. But at who am I to tell you what to do at the end of the day? The only thing I could tell you what I did. You do what you love, and you don't go after it because you make money out of it.
Right there. Okay, so we're going to move to the gentleman right here. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much for the fascinating and inspiring talk. People, including me, are rightfully fascinated about what you did. But I'm also fascinated about what you didn't. For example, you quitting the MBA, which is not only hard ego, on the ego side, but also in terms of knowing when to quit. So if you have any comments, if you can just add more into that point.
Sure. I mean, honestly, when I sat in those rooms and I thought what I'm going to get out of an MBA, and I realized what I'm going to be missing because I just finished my PhD, to me, it didn't feel right. And I felt that might be one of the biggest mistakes that, as a proud man, I will do it. And I will work hard to support my family every day. But it might be the job that every day I will hate. And I did not want to take the chance. And at that point, my wife was one of the first people to say, if that's not what you want to do, quit. So I got the support of the family.
Dr.
way.
Cooper has a question right here. Sahar?
Thank you for a very inspiring talk. I have a kind of a personal question. So, like we know, all people who have achieved and had all this research and citation, I mean, they spend a lot of time doing this. But I was happy to see that in one of your, in your last slides, you said, like, have fun and enjoy it. Can you tell us, like, how could you find a balance between your professional life and your personal life, and whether you really could find a real balance, or whether your professional life was always number one in your life, and then your wife was there to take care of the rest of the stuff?
No, my family is number one in my life. Do I work a lot of hours? I do. Do I travel a lot? I do. But when I'm with my family, they get my 100% attention.
Ghina, can you give the microphone to Mustafa? He's raising his hand over there, all the way to the back.
Hello, doctor. I wanted to ask you, looking back at everything you've done in your life and where you started and where you ended up, what's your ultimate drive throughout everything? Like, what do you look at the most, and then you go like, shit, this drives me the most, yeah.
Before the S word, what was that?
Sorry.
It's okay. I use that word all the time, so it's all right.
What drives you the most when you look back at everything you've done and like where you started and where you ended up? What do you look at and go like, this drives me the most, like where I was?
You know, proving the universities that rejected my application that I could make it. And I got invited to give a talk not in few months from now at one of those universities. And trust
Please
me,
remind them about this.
I will be taking a picture of that rejection letter, and it might be one of my first slides.
Very good.
Maybe now they hear this on a YouTube and they might take away my invitation.
We will hold on posting.
Yeah,
it.
I mean, that's sometimes those things that what keeps you moving forward is because you were let down many times.
Two more questions only. Please go ahead.
Thank you for that amazing talk. Did you ever feel like, as an Arab man, it was more difficult for you to break through in the US? Do you feel like that was considered liability? Were the expectations different?
That's a good question, but I don't think in any country in the world, not just in the US, and it's not just as an Arab man, you could be an Arab man, a brown man, a woman of color. We all have different difficulties and different challenges. So yes, they do exist. The question is, either you let them exist and you stop there, or you could say, I am willing to work hard and work twice as hard for these to move forward and not to let these things stay in my way. But not just an Arab man, you have those challenges. I think there is many other people have similar challenges as well, and not just in the United States. In almost any country in the world, you could have those challenges. There is no country in the world that is free of those challenges.
Thank you.
We
have a tradition that whenever we have a mentoring talk, that we take a group picture with the speaker, my team, and we will give you the small token of appreciation, which is just a copy of your poster. May I ask my team to join me here? And then there will be one of my team members doing some interviews outside. So stick around, it's going to be more fun. My team, please join me here. And let's give Professor Farha a big round of applause.